The silence on the bridge of the gentle dawn was the worst kind. It was not peaceful. It was the silence of machines dying, of systems whispering their last words before going dark. The gentle, blue glow of the main screens had faded to a dull gray. The only light now came from a few small emergency strips on the floor, painting the faces of the crew in shadows of fear. Captain Mira watched the last of the main power cells go offline. Her hands rested on the smooth, cool surface of her command chair. She was a woman who valued logic and calm, but a cold knot of panic was tightening in her stomach. Her ship, a marvel of Aurelian grace and technology, was dying around her. A cascade failure. It made no sense. Their voyage from the sanctuary world of Aurelia to the galactic hub had been perfectly routine. Until 1 hour ago. Now, the air was getting thinner and colder by the minute. "Report," she said, her voice steady. It was a command to herself as much as to her crew. At the communications station, Officer J ran his slender fingers over his panel. The touch-sensitive controls did not light up. Primary, secondary, and tertiary communications are non-responsive, Captain. The failure is complete. We cannot send a structured signal to Aurelian Command or the Galactic Network. A soft sigh escaped Mira. They were far from the normal shipping lanes. "Life support?" "Failing," said another crewman, his voice tight. "Atmosphere processors are at 18% efficiency. Carbon dioxide is rising. Heat is bleeding away. We have, perhaps 6 hours. Less if we move too much." They were stranded. A beautiful, fragile bird with broken wings, drifting in the endless dark. The Aurelians were a people of art, philosophy, and advanced peace. Their bodies reflected their safe world. They were slender, light-boned, and required a very specific, gentle environment. Their ships were like them. They were not built for brutality or sudden trauma. Jay looked at his captain, his young face pale in the emergency light. "We have one option. The old-style, pan-frequency broadcast. It uses the last of the backup emergency power. It sends a raw signal out on every wavelength to anyone listening. But, Captain, it has no filter, no discretion. Anyone will hear it." Mira knew what he meant. In a civilized galaxy, such a call would be answered by neighboring vessels, by peaceful traders, or by the Galactic Aid Corps. But they were in a sparse sector. The only ones who frequented these edges were miners, explorers, and others. The stories of what lurked in the galactic frontier were told in hushed tones on Aurelia. Scavengers, raiders, species from worlds. The Galactics classified as severe. "We have no choice, Jay," Mira said, the weight of command heavy on her shoulders. "A chance with an unknown responder is better than no chance at all. Prepare the broadcast." With a nod, Jay accessed the final physical emergency switch under his console. He pulled it. A low hum filled the bridge for a moment, and a single light blinked on his panel. He leaned toward his old-fashioned microphone, a relic for precisely this horror. "This is the Aurelian research vessel Gentle Dawn," he said, his voice clear despite his fear. "We are experiencing catastrophic systems failure. Our position is locked in the transmission. We have multiple crew. Life support is critical. We require immediate aid. To any vessel within range. Please respond. We request immediate aid." He repeated the message 3 times. The hum died. The light on his panel went out. The bridge was plunged back into the dim, cold silence, now feeling even more profound. The call was cast. A plea thrown into a vast, uncaring ocean. They waited. Minutes felt like hours. The crew huddled in their stations, conserving energy, conserving air. Hope was a small, fragile thing, shrinking with every passing moment. The galactic channels remained silent. No friendly voices answered. Then the long-range sensor chimed. A single weak sound. "Captain." Jay whispered, his eyes wide on the dead screen. A gravitational ripple. "Something is coming out of FTL. Very close." "Identify it," Myra ordered, leaning forward. The sensor, running on its last trickle of power, struggled. Data flickered. "Massive return," Jay read out, his voice dropping. "Signature is heavy, armor-plated. Power output is. It's enormous. Their drive technology is crude but powerful." He swallowed, the color draining completely from his face. "The identification beacon is pinging. It's auto-translating." "Well, what does it say?" Jay looked at his captain, true dread in his eyes. "Vessel, unyielding resolve. Point of origin, Sol system. Planetary classification." He couldn't say it. "Say it, officer." "Class 12, Deathworld." A collective gasp, sharp and cold, went around the bridge. The word hung in the thin air like a poison. The Deathworld. In the galactic taxonomy, it was the highest, most severe classification. It meant a world of extreme gravity, predatory ecosystems, constant geological violence, and atmospheric chaos. The beings from such places were myths and monsters in Aurelian stories. They were said to be creatures of pure strength and aggression, whose civilizations, if they had any, were built on conquest. Their very biology was a weapon. "They found us." A crewman moaned dot on the main viewer, which flickered to life with the last dregs of power. The ship came into view. It was nothing like the gentle dawn. It was blocky, angular, and utilitarian. Its hull was a patchwork of thick, gray metal plates, scarred and pitted from impacts no Aurelian ship could survive. It looked less like a starship and more like a flying fortress. It moved slowly, deliberately, turning its blunt nose toward them. A new signal arrived, audio only. The voice that came through the speakers was deep, layered with a strange harmonic roughness. It spoke in translated galactic common, but the tone was direct, without the pleasant, formal tones of Aurelian speech. "Aurelian vessel Gentle Dawn. This is Captain C.O. Jin of the Earth vessel Unyielding Resolve. We received your distress call. We are moving to dock. Prepare for physical connection." The transmission cut off. No request for permission. No assurances of peaceful intent. Just a statement of fact. "They're going to board us," Jay said, his voice trembling. "All the stories. They'll take what's left of our power core. They'll strip the hull. They won't care about the life support failure. They might just see us as—" He couldn't finish. The unspoken word was meat. Captain Mira felt a deep, chilling fear. But she also felt the responsibility for her crew. "Everyone listen," she said, forcing steel into her voice. "We are still alive. This changes the situation. We must be cautious. We must not provoke them. But we are not helpless. We are representatives of Aurelia. We will act with dignity." Outside the viewport, the monstrous ship filled their view. It extended a heavy, clamp-like docking arm. With a sound that vibrated through the very frame of the Gentle Dawn, it connected to their airlock. The sound was like the closing of a tomb door. The bridge crew watched, frozen, as the status light by the main airlock on their control panel turned from red to yellow, then to a solid, ominous green. The seal was established. Pressure was equalized. They were no longer alone. Their cry for help had been answered. Not by salvation, but by the thing they feared most in the galaxy. The waiting was over. Now the reality began. The heavy thud of the docking clamp, sealing against the Gentle Dawn's hull, echoed through the silent ship like a funeral drum. On the bridge, the crew held their breath. The green light on the airlock panel seemed to pulse with a malevolent life of its own. Captain Mira stood, her slender frame straight. Jay, with me. The rest of you, maintain stations. Do nothing unless I command it. Remember our protocols. Her voice was calm, but her heart was a frantic bird in her chest. The protocols for first contact with an unknown species were extensive. The protocols for a potential boarding by a hostile force were grim and short. She feared they would need the latter. They moved to the main airlock corridor, a wide passageway of smooth, white alloy. The air was growing colder. Their breath made small clouds. The door to their side of the airlock was closed. On the other side, they could hear noises. Not the whine of sophisticated tools, but the solid, metallic sounds of heavy mechanisms turning. Clunks and thunks. It sounded like someone was forcing a vault dot then. With a hiss of equalizing pressure, the outer door opened. For a moment, there was only darkness from the connecting tunnel of the human ship. Then, figures stepped through. The first thing Myra noticed was their solidity. They were not tall by Aurelian standards, but they were dense. They moved with a deliberate, anchored weight that seemed to make the very floor plates tremble. They wore dark, functional environmental suits, bulky at the shoulders and chest, with helmets reflecting the corridor's dim light. The leader stepped forward and raised a gloved hand. A mechanism hissed, and the helmet's faceplate retracted. The face revealed was female, older, with sharp eyes that held a calm, assessing gaze. Her hair was black, streaked with gray, tied back simply. This was Captain C.O. Jin. "I am Captain C.O. Jin," she said, her voice the same as the one from the transmission, steady and direct. "This is my medic, Hannah, and my engineer, Tae-min." She gestured to the two figures behind her. The man, Tae-min, gave a short nod. His face was broad, his expression focused on the walls and ceiling, already diagnosing. The woman, Hannah, offered a small, closed-lipped smile that did not reach her intensely observant eyes. Mira bowed slightly, the Aurelian gesture of peaceful greeting. "I am Captain Myra. This is Officer J. You answered our call. We are grateful." The words felt fragile. "Your life support is failing," Seo-jin stated. It wasn't a question. "Our initial scan shows multiple system failures of unknown origin. We are here to assist, but we must move quickly. My crew will need access to your main environmental control and power distribution." Mira hesitated. Granting a stranger, a Deathworlder, access to the heart of her ship? It was a monumental risk. Jay spoke up, his voice thin in the cold air. "How do we know your intentions?" Tae-min, the engineer, looked at Jay. His voice was softer than his captain's, but just as factual. "If our intention was to take your ship, Officer J, we would not be talking. We would have cut the hull and vented the atmosphere 10 minutes ago. It is easier." He said it without threat, as a simple statement of engineering reality. The bluntness was more shocking than any boast. Captain C.O. Jin saw their fear. "We are from Earth. Our world is harsh. Because of this, we have a principle. You help those in trouble when you can. Your ship is in trouble. We are here. Let us help." There was a profound, unshakable certainty in her tone. It bypassed diplomacy and went straight to logic. Mira, a creature of logic herself, found she could not argue. She had no other options. "Very well. We will guide you." As they moved, the differences became starkly clear. Jay led the way, his steps light and almost floating in the low gravity. Tae-min walked behind him, each footfall a deliberate, planted step. He seemed to be consciously holding himself back, moving with a careful slowness that spoke of immense control. They passed a damaged section where a conduit had overloaded, leaving a panel warped and sharp. Jay effortlessly drifted around it. As Tae-min passed, his suited arm accidentally brushed the twisted metal. There was a sharp screech of tearing alloy. The metal panel, which to an Aurelian was a dangerous, jagged obstacle, had bent and crumpled against the hard composite of his suit's forearm. He paused, looking at the damage he hadn't even felt, then at Jay's horrified face. "Sorry," Taemin muttered, his brow furrowed. "Our density. We will be more careful." They reached the primary life support chamber. The scene was one of eerie failure. The usual soft hum was gone. The delicate, crystalline filters were dark. A faint, almost beautiful shimmer hung in the air near the main processor. A sparkling, dust-like haze. Hannah, the medic, immediately stepped forward, her helmet also retracted. She ignored the big machines and focused on the air. She pulled a small scanner from her belt. "Captain Seo-jin," she said, her voice clinical. "The air is not just failing. It is being consumed. There is a bioelectrical field here. Faint. It interacts with the ambient energy." "A pathogen?" Mira asked, alarmed. "Not in the way you think," Hannah said, kneeling. She pointed her scanner at the glittering haze. "See that? It is a colony. A crystalline parasite. Our scans from our ship suggested it. It feeds on specific energy signatures and weak bioelectric fields, like the ones your systems and your bodies emit. It drains them, causing cascading failures and neural fatigue. It would explain your crew's lethargy and your systems dying." Jay stared. "Parasite? But our biofilters are designed for microbial life," Hannah finished. "This is nanoscale, mineral-based. It is probably why your automated systems did not detect it as a disease. It is more like a silent rust." Seo-jin turned to Myra. "This is the cause. It is not a mechanical fault. Your ship is infected. Can you stop it?" Myra asked. Hope and dread warring within her. Tae-min was already at a main console. A heavy data cable plugged from his wrist unit into the Aurelian system. The infection is in all major systems. To purge it with standard methods would require shutting everything down completely for a cycle. You do not have the time. He looked at the sparkling dust near a vent. "It is harmless to us." Myra blinked. "What?" Hannah explained, standing. "Our bioelectrical fields. They are different. Our nervous systems. The best way to say it is, they are too loud, too chaotic. The parasite cannot feed on them. It is attuned to the gentle, stable fields of your biology and technology. To us, this is just glitter. To you, it is a death sentence." The reality of the situation shifted in that moment. The humans were not just strong in body. They were immune. Their very nature, the thing that made them monstrous in galactic tailies, was now the only thing that could walk unharmed through the silent plague, killing the gentle dawn. Eco-Jin saw the understanding dawn on Myra's face. "This changes the plan," the human captain said. "Tae-min will work on manual physical repairs to the critical systems your crew identifies. He can work inside the infected areas. Hana will take samples and work on a counteragent based on our biochemistry. My other crew will begin transferring emergency power and air from the unyielding resolve to your ship to buy time." She looked directly at Myra, her gaze unwavering. "You must get your crew to a safe zone, a part of the ship with minimal systems, and seal it. This parasite weakens you just by being near you. You cannot help us fix this, but you can survive it. That is your job now. Let us do ours." It was not a request. It was a strategy, clear and direct. The Deathworlders were not asking for control. They were taking the burden of the danger onto themselves because they could bear it. The Aurelians could not. Mira, the captain whose ship was slipping away, felt a surge of something unexpected. It was not comfort, not yet. It was the faint, fragile warmth of a possibility. These beings from a hell world were not here to scavenge. They were here to do a job only they could do. She nodded once. We will go to the observation lounge. It has independent seals and minimal power flow. She looked at Jay, whose face was a mix of terror and awe. Officer Jay will provide you with all the system schematics you need. Jay. His eyes locked on Tae-min's heavy hands, which could casually bend metal. Simply nodded Dot as Mira and Jay retreated to seal themselves away. They glanced back. The humans were already at work. Tae-min was pulling a shattered crystal conduit from a wall with his bare hands. Hana was carefully collecting the deadly, glittering dust in a vial. Captain Azio Jin stood in the center of the failing chamber, a solid, immovable figure in the gloom. Coordinating with her ship, the door to the lounge hissed shut, sealing the Aurelians in silence. But for the first time since the failure began, the silence did not feel like an ending. Outside, the sounds of purposeful work had begun. The observation lounge was the quietest place on the gentle dawn. It was a room meant for peace, with a large transparent wall looking out at the stars. Now, it felt like a delicate glass prison. Captain Mira and Officer Jay sat with the rest of their small crew, 10 Aurelians in total. The air here was still clean, fed by a tiny, isolated unit, but it was cold. They huddled in their thin silver suits, sharing body heat, their breath making small clouds. On a small screen, they watched the feed from the ship's internal cameras. The images were shaky and from odd angles, but they showed the humans at work. It was a strange and frightening thing to witness Dot in the main engineering bay. Tae-min, the human engineer, worked alone. The bay was a forest of delicate crystal conduits and shimmering energy channels, now dark and dead. The sparkling haze of the parasite hung everywhere like toxic glitter. Tae-min moved through it without a suit, wearing only his dark, simple ship clothes. To him, the deadly haze was just dust. He wiped a glittering patch off his shoulder without a second thought. His job was the air processors. The main unit had been shattered by a power surge when the parasite first attacked. To an Aurelian crew, this would be a days-long repair with specialized tools and gravity manipulators. The fragments were large and sharp. Jay watched, his mouth slightly open, as Tae-min walked up to the largest piece of broken crystalline housing. It was as tall as he was and wedged against a control panel. The human did not call for equipment. He simply bent his knees, wrapped his arms around the massive fragment, and lifted. The muscles in his back and shoulders tightened under his clothes. There was a grating sound, and then the huge piece of debris came free. He carried it across the room and set it down against a wall with a solid thud that vibrated through the camera. He did not pant or strain. It was just a task completed. He lifted that like it was nothing, whispered one of the crew, a young woman named Suha. It would take 3 of us with a loader. Myra said nothing. She watched as Tae-min then picked up a fractured conduit pipe. With his bare hands, he bent the crumpled end back into a rough shape and used a heavy tool from his belt to seal it. His movements were not graceful, but they were incredibly efficient. Every motion had purpose. No energy was wasted. He worked in the heart of the infection, a place that would slowly kill any Aurelian. As if he were fixing a simple machine in a clean workshop. In the medical lab, Hana worked differently. Her space was orderly. She had taken samples of the parasite and was using a portable synthesizer from her own ship. On the camera feed, they could see her frowning at a screen, her fingers moving quickly. She was mixing chemicals. She is making something, Jay observed. They watched as Hana took a small, empty canister from the wall part of the ship's emergency fire suppression system. She poured her synthesized liquid into it. Then she attached a simple spray nozzle. On her comms unit, her voice came through, calm and clear. Captain C.O. Jin. The repellent is ready. It is a simple compound. It mimics the electrical noise of our nervous systems. It should create a zone the parasites will avoid. It is not a cure for infected systems, but it will protect clean areas and allow for safer work zones. Understood. Seojin's voice replied from elsewhere on the ship. Proceed. Hannah picked up the canister and left the lab. The camera followed her as she walked back toward the main life support chamber. She saw a cluster of the glittering dust gathering near a vent. She raised the canister and sprayed a fine mist. Where the mist touched the sparkling haze, the particles seemed to recoil. They drifted away, dissipating like smoke in a breeze. She had made a shield from a fire extinguisher. Meanwhile, Captain Seojin was a constant, steady voice on the comms. She was not on the camera feeds much. She was coordinating between her ship, the unyielding Resolve, and her crew on the Gentle Dawn. Tae Min, status on the primary oxygen flow. Seal is holding. The new conduit is crude, but it will move air. The filters are still dead, though. Acknowledged. Hannah, can your repellent be aerosolized into the airstream? Negative, Captain. It would break down too quickly. It is a surface coating. Understood. We will use physical filters from our ship. They are less efficient, but they are not organic. The parasite cannot eat them. Myra listened to this exchange. There were no compliments, no unnecessary words. Just information and action. The humans were not just strong. They were smart. They were solving a complex alien problem with shocking speed, using a mix of their own technology and whatever they found on the Aurelian ship. A new voice, younger, came from the human ship. Captain, the power transfer conduit is secure. We are feeding you auxiliary energy now. You should see lights on low-grade systems. A moment later, the dim emergency strips in the observation lounge brightened slightly. A soft hum returned to the air circulator. It was a tiny thing, but in the cold silence, it felt like a miracle. A human-made miracle. Jay looked at the slight glow, then back at the screen where Tae Min was now clearing another mass of debris. They are really doing it, he said softly. They are not taking anything. They are giving us power. On the screen, something new happened. Tae Min was working near a major power coupling when a hidden cache of the parasite, disturbed by his movements, erupted from a vent in a sparkling cloud. It coated his arm and the tool he was holding. On the camera, they could see the glittering crystals trying to find a purchase on his skin. They could see the faint, natural static of his body repel them. After a moment, they simply fell off, inert. He shook his arm, brushed the dust from his tool, and kept working. He was immune. Utterly and completely. The deadliest thing on the ship was to him less bothersome than sawdust. This was the true meaning of Deathworlder. Myra began to understand. It was not about aggression. It was about existing in an environment where everything, even the air, could kill you. To survive, you had to become resilient to threats others could not even perceive. Their strength was not for attack. It was a shield. And right now, that shield was around her crew. Hannah entered the engineering bay with her spray canister. She sprayed a wide area around Tae Min, creating a safe zone. How is the neural fatigue? She asked him, her voice low on the open mic. Minimal, he grunted, not looking up from his work. A slight headache, like a low-grade charge. It is nothing. A low-grade charge would put one of us in a coma, Jay whispered to Mira, his eyes wide. Mira finally spoke, her voice quiet with realization. They are not feeling nothing. They are feeling what for them is a minor irritation. But they are working through it. For us, she looked at her crew. They are using their nature, the very thing we fear, to save our natures. Outside the sealed door of the lounge, they could now hear the steady rhythmic sounds of work. The thumps of heavy footsteps, The scrape of metal, the hiss of Hana's spray. They were the sounds of salvation, performed by beings who looked like monsters but acted like... what? Not like angels. Like engineers. Like medics. Like people doing a difficult, necessary job. The stars outside the observation window seemed brighter. Or perhaps it was just that the room was no longer fading into total darkness. A sliver of warmth was returning to the air. Captain Myra watched the human crew on the flickering screen, these solid, quiet people from a terrible world. And for the first time, the word Deathworlder did not spark fear in her heart. It sparked a fragile, blooming hope. The work went on for hours. Inside the observation lounge, the Aurelians dozed fitfully, huddled for warmth, watching the camera feeds until their eyes grew heavy. The humans did not stop. They worked in shifts, but their shifts were long. Captain Seo Jin moved between the two ships, a constant, solid presence. Finally, a chime sounded on the lounge's small console. It was Captain Seo Jin's voice, calm as ever. Captain Mira, the immediate crisis is stabilized. We have restored basic life support to 70% of your ship. The parasite is contained in 3 main zones. It is safe for you to move to the mess hall. It has independent systems we have cleaned. You should eat and drink. It was not a suggestion. It was a medical order. Mira gathered her crew. They moved slowly, their bodies weak from stress and the lingering draining effect of the parasite they had been near earlier. The corridor outside was warmer. The lights were on at half power. The air tasted clean. The mess hall was a simple room with a long table. Hannah, the human medic, was there. She had set out packages from her own ship-simple, dense-looking nutrient bars and containers of water. She watched them enter, her eyes missing nothing. "Please, sit," Hannah said. "The food is simple, but it is safe. The water has added electrolytes. It will help with the neural fatigue." The Aurelian sat, moving stiffly. Jay picked up a nutrient bar. It was small but heavy in his hand. He took a cautious bite. It tasted bland, like grains and minerals, but it was filling. Hannah poured water into cups for them. She moved with a careful gentleness, her hands, which they had seen bend metal conduit, now handling the thin Aurelian cups as if they were made of spun glass. For a while, they ate in silence. The simple act of having warm air, light, and food was overwhelming. Sua, the young crew woman, began to cry softly from relief. Hannah saw this and simply placed another cup of water near her, saying nothing, offering a quiet dignity in the face of their shock. Jay finally found his voice. He looked at Hannah, who was leaning against a wall, observing them like a doctor monitoring patients. "Your engineer, Tae Min. He worked in that infected bay for hours. Is he all right?" Hannah nodded. "He is fine. He is on our ship now, resting. He has a mild headache and is hungry. For him, it is like a day of hard physical work. The parasite's effect on us is like a constant, low buzzing in the back of the skull. Unpleasant, but not disabling. A buzzing that would liquefy our nerves," Mira said softly, holding her warm cup. "Yes," Hannah agreed simply. There was no boast in her voice. It was a fact. Our biology is different. Our world is different. It makes us useful for tasks like this. Why? The word burst from Jay, filled with all the confusion and fear of the last day. "Why are you doing this? You didn't know us. We feared you. The story's about Deathworlders. You must know what the galaxy says. Why help?" Hannah considered the question. She pushed off from the wall and sat at the far end of the table, giving them space. "The stories are not wrong," she said, her voice even. "Our world is a place of death. High gravity that crushes. Storms that tear continents. Predators in every shadow. Plants that poison. It is a hard place. She took a sip from her own water container. But that is just the stage. The story is what life does on that stage. On Earth, to be alone is to die. To be weak is to die. So we learn to be strong together. We learn that community is not a luxury. It is the first, most important tool for survival. If you see someone in trouble, you help them. Because tomorrow, you will be the one in trouble. If you do not help, everyone dies. This is not philosophy for us. It is like breathing. Myra listened, her logical mind grappling with the concept. So, it is. Enlightened self-interest? Hannah gave a small, almost smile. It is not that calculated. It is simpler. You see a ship in trouble. You can help. So you help. There is no other choice to make. The idea of passing by, of ignoring a distress call. It is unthinkable. It would be like choosing to stop breathing. Jay shook his head. But we are not from your community. We are strangers. We are fragile. We are everything your world is not. That does not matter, Hannah said. Her tone was gentle but absolute. Life is life. Suffering is suffering. The strong protect the weak. That is the rule. It is the only rule that makes a death world livable. If we only helped those who were strong like us, there would be no one left to help. The mess hall door opened, and Captain Seojin entered. She had removed the top half of her environmental suit, wearing a simple dark undershirt. Her arms were thick with muscle, earned from a lifetime fighting gravity. She carried a data pad. The main power coupling on your bridge is the next problem, Seojin said, getting straight to business. It is heavily infected. It needs to be physically replaced. My crew is preparing a part from our stores. We will do it in 1 hour. Myra stood. We can help. We can guide you, at least. Seojin looked at her, and for the first time, Mira saw a flicker of something besides calm assessment in the human's eyes. It was concern. Captain Mira, with respect, you cannot. The parasite concentration, there is now the highest on the ship. Your presence would be harmful to you, and it would force my crew to divide their attention between the task and protecting you. The best thing you can do for your ship is to stay here, in safety, and let us work. This is our specialty. It was a kind rejection, but a firm one. The humans saw a danger they were immune to, and they were placing themselves in front of it, like a wall. The hour passed quietly. The Aurelians rested, feeling strength slowly return with the food in safe air. Then, the work on the bridge began. They watched on the small mess hall screen, which Hannah had connected to a camera. The bridge was shrouded in a dense, beautiful, and deadly glittering fog. 2 human crew members in full suits worked, their movements blurred by the haze. They were using cutters to remove the burned-out coupling. Sparks flew, illuminating the sparkling dust like tiny stars. Suddenly, the screen flared white. A hidden energy capacitor, damaged by the parasite, discharged. A whip-like arc of blue electricity snapped across the bridge, striking one of the human workers. The Aurelians gasped. The human stumbled back, then shook his head. His partner checked on him. Over the open comms, they heard the struck human's voice, slightly distorted. I'm fine. Just a tingle. Keep going. This whole panel is live. They continued working as if nothing had happened. The electrical arc, which would have stopped an Aurelian heart instantly, was a tingle. Jay stared, his face pale. Did you see that? The electricity. Hannah, who was watching with them, nodded. Our bodies can handle higher voltage. Our nervous systems are robust. Another gift from a world with fierce lightning storms. It is useful now. Mira watched the humans work in that terrible, glittering storm of poison and electricity. They were not fearless. They were just durable. Their bodies were tools shaped by a hostile world, and they were using every one of those tools to save a ship full of strangers who had feared them. She thought of Hana's words. The strong protect the weak. It was not a boast. It was a statement of purpose. Looking at the screen, at these solid, unbreakable people risking tingles and headaches that would mean death for her and her crew, Myra finally understood. They were not monsters. They were guardians. And for the first time since the stars went dark, she felt truly, deeply safe. The familiar, gentle hum of the gentle dawn was back. It was a sound Captain Mira had thought she would never hear again. The lights were at full brightness, casting a soft, blue glow on the smooth walls of her bridge. The air was warm and clean, scented only with the mild, sterile smell of the life support systems. On the main viewer, the stars hung in silent, steady splendor. The parasite was gone. Every last glittering speck had been purged, burned away by a focused energy pulse the humans had devised, a pulse based on the chaotic, electrical noise of their own biology. The ship's systems, repaired with a mix of delicate Aurelian tech and sturdy, human-made replacements, were all reporting green. They were alive. They were whole. Standing beside Myra, Officer J ran a final diagnostic. His hands, which had trembled with cold and fear a day ago, were steady. All systems nominal, Captain. Life support, navigation, communications, all fully operational. We are ready to resume course. Mira nodded, but her attention was on the smaller screen to her side. It showed the airlock corridor. There, the humans were gathered. They had removed their bulky environmental suits. They stood in simple, dark pants and shirts, looking even more solid and real without the extra layer. Captain Ezio Jin, Medic Hana, Engineer Tae Min, and 2 others from their crew. They carried their tools and empty supply cases. They were leaving. Come, Jay, Mira said softly. It is time to say thank you. They met in the corridor by the main airlock. The humans stood in a neat group. The Aurelians, the entire 10 crew members of the Gentle Dawn, faced them. The difference was still striking. The willowy, graceful Aurelians and the dense, grounded humans. But the fear was gone. In its place was a profound, quiet respect. Myra took a step forward and bowed deeply, the formal bow of her people, reserved for great honors. Her crew bowed with her. Captain Seo-jin, Myra began, her voice clear in the quiet corridor. Crew of the unyielding resolve. We called for anyone. We sent our fear out into the dark with our distress signal. When we saw your ship, we believed our fear had answered. She paused, choosing her words with care. We were wrong. You did not bring death. You brought life. You did not bring strength to dominate. You brought strength to carry. You carried us when we could not walk. You have saved my ship, and you have saved my crew. Our debt can never be repaid. Seo-jin accepted the words with a slight, respectful nod of her own head. There is no debt, Captain Mira. A ship was in trouble. We were nearby. We helped. This is what we do. Hana spoke, her gentle voice adding to her captain's. Your crew is recovering well. The neural fatigue will fade in a day or 2. Drink plenty of water. Rest. You will be fine. Tae Min, who had bent metal and lifted debris that would have crushed an Aurelian, gave a shy, small smile. Your ship is beautiful. It was an honor to work on her. She is strong in her own way. Jay found his courage. He looked at Tae Min directly. You risked so much. The electricity, the parasite. For us, Tae Min shrugged, a motion that spoke of immense power held in check. It was not a risk for us. Not like it was for you. It was just work. The right work. That was it, Mira realized. That was the core of them. It was not about being heroes. It was about doing the right work. The necessary work. No drama, no boasting. Just action. Jin checked a readout on her wrist. Our dock will release in 3 minutes. Your ship has full capability. You may continue your journey. She extended a hand, a human gesture. Myra, understanding, reached out and took it. Jin's grip was firm, but carefully controlled. It was a hand that could crush, choosing instead to connect. Safe travels, Captain Myra. May your skies be clear. And yours. Captain Jin, Myra replied, the words feeling deeply true. With final nods, the humans turned and filed through the airlock into the connecting tunnel. The heavy door hissed shut behind them. On the bridge, Jay watched the external sensors as the massive, blocky form of the unyielding Resolve detached its docking clamp. The human ship moved away with a slow, powerful grace, turning its scarred nose toward the void. For a long moment, the crew of the Gentle Dawn stood in silence on the bridge, watching the ship grow smaller on the screen. Jay broke the silence, his voice full of wonder. They never even asked for our names. Not really. They just fixed us. Mira looked at the star chart, now active and glowing. The human ship was a blinking icon, moving toward a vector that would lead back to Earth space. A thought, clear and certain, formed in her mind. She walked to the communication station, now glowing with full power. She entered a command. Captain? Jay asked. Sending a message, Mira said. Not on the distress band. A focused, tight beam transmission. To the unyielding Resolve. She typed the words, simple and direct, letting them stand alone. To Captain Jin and the crew of the unyielding Resolve. If your ship is ever in need, if you ever call for aid, send the signal to us. We will answer. We will come. She sent it. On the bridge of the unyielding Resolve, the message alert chimed. Jin read it on her screen. A rare, slow smile touched her lips. Min, looking over from the engineering station, raised an eyebrow. Do you think they could ever really help a Deathworld crew? He asked, not with scorn, but genuine curiosity. Hana, who was checking a medical readout, answered before Jin could. She smiled, a true, warm smile this time. They already have Min. Jin nodded, her eyes on the message. She is right. They have already helped. They reminded us we are not just a warning label in a galactic database. We are a people, and we are part of something bigger. She looked out her own viewport at the receding, graceful shape of the Gentle Dawn, a fragile-looking ship that now held friends. Plot a course for home. Back on the Aurelian ship, Jay looked at the departing human vessel, then at the star chart. He entered a new log entry, a personal one. We were wrong about Deathworlders. They are not the monsters in the dark. They are the ones who walk into the dark to bring others back to the light. We will remember. Captain Myra took her seat in the command chair. The familiar contours felt different. The galaxy felt different. It was not a smaller place, but a more connected one. The silent, cold fear of the unknown had been replaced by a simple, warm knowledge that strength has many forms, and the strongest form of all is compassion wrapped in action. Set course for the galactic hub. Officer J, she said, her voice full of a new kind of peace. Ahead, slow and steady. The Gentle Dawn, once dying and now fully alive, turned toward the stars. Far away, the unyielding Resolve flashed once as it entered faster than light travel, a brief spark against the infinite dark, heading toward its own harsh and beautiful world. Two ships from two different worlds sailing on, forever changed by a simple call for help and a simple, powerful response.